Hi to you all again, and welcome to another exciting episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again via Skype by my good friend Steve Kern. How you doing there, Steve?
Hi Ben, I'm doing well, thanks. Just had a cup of coffee, I'm all ready to go for today.
Very good, very good. We're expecting some hyper discussion there.
That's right. And it's all free on FiST Chat.
Oh, well, we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? And now, just so you don't forget, our website, www.fistchat.com, you'll get all of our links there to either our audio or video, previous episodes, all that sort of thing, and you can Facebook or tweet us, so we'd love to hear from you, any questions or comments you might have. Anything that fits in, we'll throw it into an episode, so throw them our way. Now, we're going to be talking about making a film without a budget today.
Is that possible, Ben? Is it possible to make a film without a budget?
Well, that's the question, and it's all about your point of view, isn't it? I mean, if you're saying you can't spend any money, I think you do have to spend some money, but if we're talking about budget in the professional sense, you know, in this day and age, are we really bothered with things like budgets?
Well, and the question I would go so far to say is, does a budget really matter? And why do people say that a budget matters? Do we start this topic, Ben, then from the point of view that if you actually were to make a film and you were about to try and sell it via studio distributions, the fact that if you told them that you actually made a zero budget, no one's very interested. Could you tell everyone why that is?
Well, because it's all about the perception, isn't it? If you made a film on no budget, then it's considered to be nothing, like just a cheap home movie. One of the first things I ever learnt, in making films is that you don't tell people what you actually spent on the film. You tell people what it would have been budgeted as. And that's how miraculously I can recall how Parallels, one of my feature films from yesteryear, had a budget of $1.7 million. And I can tell you a lot of the crew were interested when they found out that that was the budget, because they were wondering where it all went.
Well, that's because they didn't spend it on the catering. Although the after party was good.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But it's just it just goes to show. I mean, budget's all about perception. I mean, if we just sort of segue a little bit, Hollywood does this to perfection. I mean, they'll go out and say, "Oh, this film cost $200 million or whatever." Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. You'll hear stories about how, every item in the budget was itemized except for maybe, say, the special effects budget, and all you'll see is one line saying $40 million. So where did it all go, kind of thing?
Well, and then the other thing, of course, in that $200 million is the huge executive producer and producer fees and studio fees that they charge in there, and that's one of the reasons why a big budget is important. Because if you do make a film that could be of interest to studios, they want their cut, and the only way they can do that is if the film is actually budgeted. So that's a small trap for new players. You can make a great film, but sometimes you can run into a lot of trouble if you can't create a budget as you did of $1.7 million, Ben, because otherwise they've actually got a sliding scale for what acquisitions will pay, and it's based on budget.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, if you were to actually stick to a budget as well at that low end, say if you got $1 million to make a film, you would have to, and you're trying to do it the traditional way, you would actually be struggling a lot, I think, with that much money to get, the maximum amount out of it. But if you're doing it on a no budget level, because you're not, well, in effect, you're not going to be paying anyone, they'll all be working on deferred payments. In a way, that kind of frees you up, because now you're really just paying for the actual cost of, I don't know, getting props or securing a location or something like that. And I think that's kind of a thing that you really need to concentrate on, is the idea that you should work on those within those constraints, because you'll actually find that even though you might not be able to blow up 20 cars or do some spectacular helicopter shot, there are a lot of freedoms associated with a no budget production. And if we're bringing the Hollywood thing in again, the more money that's spent on a film, the less likely that you're going to have a certain amount of freedom in there, unless, of course, you're James Cameron or something like that.
Absolutely, but you bring up a lot of good points there, though. Getting away from the Hollywood side of things about no budget or low budget filmmaking, it gives you a lot more freedom. And while there may be sometimes claims against professionalism on a no budget film, the experiences I've had, very often the actors are just as dedicated, and very often your crew are just as dedicated, although often they might have ideas of their own, just like the actors might. But nonetheless, that happens in Hollywood. The great thing is that you can still make very good films. So you use one location or two locations. You're inventive and creative with what you show and what you don't show. And I believe potentially you can tell better stories with no budget filmmaking. And best of all, if you have a good idea, if you believe in yourself and you back yourself in, there's not any third party to tell you what you should be doing.
No, exactly right. And I mean, just as to extend this idea of how much freedom it can give you, like, even though I've heard some stories of on bigger budget films that shoot on digital that they can do this as well, but in a no budget arena, you can really not be locked down to this idea of everything being rigid. On a traditional film, every shot you do, you have to start it, you have to stop it, you have to reset. You waste time doing that. But you shoot digital, you can do uninterrupted takes. However long the tape is, you could just keep on going. You can get that spontaneity happening with the actors, which is something that I know that working with some of the actors I've worked with, they've appreciated. Working on like Trial of Film, for example, I wrote the script, but then because it kind of had a loose kind of production in the sense that, I was going for a more documentary feel. The actors threw in a lot of stuff, and almost all of it ended up in the film that wasn't scripted, and it was funny. So, and that's just an example. You can just sort of get that sort of flow happening and get some more spontaneity and genuine moments in there.
Well, that's right, and it's actually literally only costing you 3 or 4 cents a minute.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's videotape.
And we're shooting high def, and I mean now you can shoot obviously on flash memory as well. So it's just the initial outlay for the card, and then you can just keep on rewriting over the top of it until it fails.
You're going to find it hard to make another $1.7 million budget.
Be struggling, yeah, unless they charge a premium on those memory cards. But maybe another thing is also, maybe it's not as prevalent anymore because, the technology is so cheap, it's so available. Anyone can pretty much produce something, get it on the internet or whatever and get it seen and show it to anyone they need to. But I remember when I was starting out making these no-budget films, and there was still that sort of sense of doing things traditionally. And I had to kind of find a way to do it that would suit me and my style. And I found that there were a lot of things that in a no-budget arena you don't necessarily need to do. Like, for example, when you remember the old Guardian launch, that big extravaganza that we put on, and
that's still one of my favourite evenings in film, and I believe this year we should be having a 10th anniversary. So you better think about that.
Oh, absolutely, we should, and we have to round up everyone. But just a case in point, there was a member of the local industry there, and he pulled me aside, and he wanted the lowdown, and he was going to tell me, how things were done. And I can just remember one clear point where I told him, he asked me if I'd storyboarded the film, and to which point I said no. And the guy's face turned red, and he got deeply offended, almost like I'd committed some sort of, amateurish uber mistake. But as I pointed out, who cares? because I didn't need one based on the type of production that it was, because it was small crew. It was only like maybe 3, 4, 5 of us at any given time. You don't need a storyboard, because a storyboard would probably be useful if you're communicating it to 1,000 people like you would in a Hollywood film. So just as an example like that, there are many other examples across the board in terms of filmmaking that, that sort of fall into that category.
Yeah.
So it's just an amazing thing. And I guess that's part of it too, that you really have to listen to what you think is right as well, because if there's one thing about the film industry and with the all the egos and whatever else that are out there, there'll be plenty of people that will tell you how you should be doing it, and if they get a sniff of insecurity on your part, they're more than happy to jump in and tell you how you should be doing it.
Well, that's because they're pretty insecure themselves. Just one point on that. I mean, just with a bit of history here, I think the first considered no-budget film was Sex, Lies and Videotape. And I do recommend people watch that if they've got a DVD collection or get hold of one. But, there's a lot of hidden stuff in that no-budget stuff. You can make a very good film, once again, to repeat this, no-budget. But, unless you've got the proper distribution networks, it's tough to get those films out. Have you got any ideas on what the best ways to go are, Ben?
Well, at the end of the day, if you want the traditional distribution route, it's basically hasn't changed much, I don't think. You have to...
An uncle at Sony Pictures or a good friend on Google.
Yeah, exactly. You have to know someone. And I think that's been, in time immemorial, that old adage. But if you want to look at some non-traditional methods like the internet, or the internet's really something that has opened up to a lot of people the ability to show your work, at next to no cost, pretty much, because with things like YouTube and whatever. Because the great thing is that, I remember when I was starting to make films, that wasn't a possibility. So if I made a film, and you fall into this category as well, if we made a film, it would, after you'd done it, you'd do a cast crew screening. You might get maybe if you're lucky, if you organise it right, you get a lot of people to come along from the public. But after that screening, that's it. It goes on the shelf. Nobody hears from it again. On the internet, you put it up there, it's instantly accessible and can be watched at any time, anywhere, by anyone. So you can't really argue with that.
Well, I do have to say that, with the advent of the internet and TV channels on the internet, like small wave, Digicosm TV, great avenues like that for outlets. My films have been watched by more people, in the last couple of years than they were in the first 5 or 6 years of their life.
Yeah.
So it's very important to find good avenues and good places. That's the important part of no-budget filmmaking.
Yeah, and I guess just to finish up, I think the great point to make is that, all the technology is quite cheap. You can shoot high definition for next to nothing these days, and basically if you can just go out, save up, buy that camera, get that you can even get a $1,000 laptop that could probably edit for you. If you can do all of that, there's really no excuse for you to go out and make a film.
Oh, it's easy now, isn't it, Ben? It's, I believe now more than ever that if you believe and you're excited about filmmaking, now's the time to do it. And, make it for yourself, make it for your friends and family. If you make it really well and you work hard at, the craft of filmmaking, there's an audience out there for you.
And at the very least, you've got a platform to do a lot of practice till you do get it right. So it's awesome.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Okay, so we might wrap it up there. Thanks again, Steve, for the chat. It's always great to talk about these things and reminisce, as well as look to the future. It's amazing how we can sort of do that at the same time on this show.
It's great little format, and people, I mean, I really encourage you to tweet us if you've got any say, Facebook us if you've got anything to say. We love to hear from our fans.
Absolutely. So yeah, don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. That's where you can get all our links. So until next week, have a good week, and we'll catch you next time.